So we're chatting to Amy DuFault, who is in the southeastern New England of America, Amy, and we were going to be meeting face to face in your home. Tell us where that is and, just about how you're feeling and living there at the moment with the coronavirus.
All right. Well, I'm on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and I'm in a very quiet neighborhood, one road up from a lake. So it's very peaceful and very quiet and very, I feel very insulated from the world unless I have to go to the supermarket and forage for toilet paper and other necessities with a mask on. But yeah, so I'm just kind of living in this quiet place. I work from home anyway, unless I'm traveling with my jobs. So it feels very normal. It doesn't feel normal to have my whole family here at all times, but it just feels pretty normal right now. It's only when I leave the house do I feel like, what's happening outside? Or of course I read the New York Times and lots of other news sources every day, and I'm aware of the madness of the world. But if I didn't have that, things would seem completely normal to me right now.
So tell us about your work. You've been working in this sustainable fashion space for a long time.
Yeah, I started out I've been a journalist for 25 years. So I started out as a writer, and then little by little somehow was led to the world of design and fashion and designers and kind of more personal stories, like where they were coming from, why they were designing. It didn't start at all in sustainability, but then it just kind of morphed into or evolved into writing just about sustainable fashion. And for me, it was when I first started, it was really focusing on women in business and women's rights. And then that was my path. And then it's evolved now into more of regenerative thinking, regenerative storytelling. That's what I tell people now. My titles for both businesses are communications director or sustainability director, but I just feel like when I talk about myself, I call myself a regenerative storyteller, because whether it's regenerative in terms of farming or history or, food, any type of way of a story storytelling, that it has to kind of be fed and nourished and told in a way that seems fresh. So people want to be part, so that circle can keep on going and you keep growing the circle. That's really what my focus has been.
And how has your work been disrupted? And how are you working differently now?
Well, so I work for 2 companies, and then I have lots of side jobs. But the 2 companies I work for, I'm the sustainability director for Botanical Colors, and I am also the communications director for TS Designs in North Carolina. So I work remotely with these people anyway, because one's in North Carolina and one's in Seattle. So that's nothing new, but just the speed by which we now are working. I don't have any pause in my day. I eat and work, and by the time I'm done with my day, I just crash pretty hard. But I've been trying to use that regenerative storytelling or storytelling in as many fresh and exciting and positive ways as humanly possible for both businesses. And ideas that would have taken us a little bit of time to work through and edit and throw around and, put holes in it and edit down. Now it's just kind of, Amy, just do it. Amy, just do it. So I just do it. And sometimes those ideas work well, and sometimes they don't. For some bizarre reason, they all seem to be working right now. They're all working. So I'm excited by that, but also it's super tiring because my brain just feels like steam's always coming out my ears.
So one of the things that I tapped into was Feedback Friday that you set up with Botanical Colors. So this is about sharing a message around, sustainable ideas, is it, around the way we dress?
Botanical Colors is we sell natural dyes. We do wholesale for natural dyes, and we're one of the kind of lead production houses in the United States for natural dyeing. So we do Eileen Fisher's natural dyeing. We do lots of large brands natural dyeing. I've signed NDAs, so I can't talk about. You would have known about them and their collections had it been a different time where everything didn't get slowed down, but it's okay. You'll find out more. So we always have people who write in questions. It could be a brand, it could be just somebody who follows us on social media, and they want to know, how do I mordant? How do I scour? How color fast is fustic or indigo? Or, so we get these questions, and instead of just responding to one person, we decided, let's just make this a blog post every Friday. So every Friday for years now, we've been having Feedback Friday where we answer all our community's natural dye questions. And when everything hit, we were realizing that it would be really exciting to do live Feedback Fridays on Zoom, and let's just see how it goes. And so when we first started out, it was, we had about 35 people that signed up, and we're like, oh my God, that's amazing, and then the next week it was 90, and the next week it was 150, and then for tomorrow, for Sasha Doer's Feedback Friday, we're at 300. So it's incredible that all these people want to just listen to somebody talk about natural dyes and be part of a community for 1 hour once a week. And it's a free thing that we're doing. So if we can give back, that we just feel like that's our give back that we're doing to the community. And I run social media for us too. So I'm constantly promoting all the beautiful work that everyone's doing in their backyards and their kitchens and their home studios. And because of this support system and, this space that we've created, our sales have gone up incredibly. We're not doing production right now. Production is really quiet. That's a challenge, but our retail sales have gone up a lot. And it's just because I think more people just are home and want to make something. And in terms of what we offer, it's natural dyes. And so they're really experimenting with it, foraging their yard and mixing it with our extracts or our raw materials. And so it's beautiful to see.
So I guess that does reflect that the hands-on activity is a way that people are kind of coping with the disruption and the change. Do you think there's a bit of a return to those self-made skills?
I definitely believe that. I mean, if we look at how many people are gardening suddenly or want to grow their own food, who are making masks on their own, who are absolutely natural dyeing. I mean, everybody's doing things. I don't know about you, but I've sure as hell been making a lot more at my house. I'm patching things. I'm working on a denim jacket right now with patches I've been saving and just putting, getting my patches sewn on, and which spurs on all kinds of ideas that I want to start with a kind of a new project, asking friends, send me patches and I'll send you something for your, wardrobe, or just this kind of almost like a chain letter. I did this once with a t-shirt and sent it all over the country to about 20 friends. And it came back to me. It was an Eileen Fisher t-shirt I had been given. And it came back, I actually have it down the hall here, came back as a dress, and it had so much all over it, from turquoise sewn on here to Natalie Channon actually did the whole side of it for me, to people's zip codes embroidered on, African wax cloth to make a skirt, pockets, epaulets. It came back so, yeah, it was pretty fabulous. So I'm starting to think it would be really cool to start asking friends to send me a patch that they have that I could put on my jacket, and I'll just keep sewing. I currently am soliciting friends to send me a garment for me to natural dye, because that's how I've been keeping my brain intact, is natural dyeing. And so my kids are only so much you can do with with wanting to, them wanting to have naturally dyed clothing. And my husband, I did something for him, but I've been doing things for neighbors and friends, and just, get something in my mailbox scour it, mordant it, and try to do what they want me to do, whatever effect it is, a shibori or a tie-dye or a single color or flower printing. So fun.
So what's in your background that kind of led you to be where you are now, do you think, in terms of living this regenerative life where, you're working with nature?
I don't think I've ever been asked that question. That's funny. I think it came from being poor. It's absolutely, since I was on my own at 19, I became vegetarian because I couldn't afford meat, and I didn't actually know how to cook meat either. I think that was a part of it. And then, led me on a journey of being vegetarian for 10 years until I had my daughter, and all I could think about was A1 steak sauce. But, being poor and realizing that grains cost less than meat, and like that's how I started thinking differently. I started educating myself, like, wow, what's the impact of that? Why does it cost so much? And then I also think not having a lot of money to buy clothing always made me aware of, I had to be frugal with what I was buying and thrift. So, and my journey into all this, it definitely came from a place of not having enough. And so I had to make do. And there's a certain level that I wanted to live, like I wanted to have new clothes, or I wanted to have good food. So I just had to learn how to make it or utilize it best. But I actually just wrote an article in Taproot magazine called Foraging for Self about how I got into natural dyeing, because I actually am really bad at sewing. I mean, in an apocalypse, I'll make you something, but you're going to regret it. I can't knit. I can't crochet. I can't do any of those things. I've written about it for 13, 14 years, but natural dyeing I can do, and I can get better at it the more I practice, which is something I try to push through botanical colors. There's no stupid questions, and everything you do is amazing. That you even took time to make something, to put color to cloth, is beautiful. Just revel in that and be proud of yourself. So my journey into now natural dyeing as my form of making has come from that place where I always wanted to make something. And now I am making things, and I love what I make. I love that I dyed this shirt with madder root. I love that most of my closet is naturally dyed right now.
Oh, that's great, Amy. And so have you found that the lockdown specifically has changed your thinking around waste and perhaps like where your resources come from? Are you thinking more about that now?
I am, and in really odd ways. I mean, when in terms of food, I compost, so I've kind of gotten crazy. Like, wow, we can't waste anything. We always are really good with our food and not wasting, but now I'm really into food not wasting and composting and digging in the garbage if my kids threw a lemon in by mistake. And because right now I'm able to grow dye plants using the soil that's coming out of my composter and a little bit of the chicken poop that my chicken, has in the back. And so I don't have to go to the gardening store for anything right now. And in terms of clothing, my husband and I go to Goodwill every single Sunday. And it's kind of like going to a museum for us. And we find artifacts and we show each other things. And often we do walk out with one or two things. My husband with a, clutch of albums, and myself with some really great linen dress that I'm going to dye or something. That's what I look for. I go to Goodwill to find templates or canvases for natural dyeing. So and that helps me with my practice. So that's why I'm soliciting friends to send me things, because that's how I'm able to still keep creating. So, I mean, my closet, I'm realizing too, I bet you we all are, we're not going to conferences, we're not going to events. What's comfortable, what makes us feel like ourselves, even though we're sitting around and nobody might see us all day long. What is it? And so that makes me look at my wardrobe differently. It makes me look at my shoes differently. You know, shouldn't I have some good boots, lace up boots to be, you know, wearing instead of the number of clogs that I have, or, you know, I just look at it more. If I was to do this for the rest of my life, how would I dress? And so that makes me look at everything differently. But I have a really small closet. I love everything in my closet. So I've maybe during this time have evaluated that 3 garments or so have not passed muster. And so they've gone into a bag that we have a town dump. So we bring our clothes in a bag to Goodwill and, you know, put it in the Goodwill dumpster.
Yeah, or you can compost them if they're natural fibers too.
Yeah. The natural fibers are going to meet their maker in a dye vat for me. So I'm not getting rid of those.
And in terms of your daily routines, is there a routine day or a practice that you have? I think you mentioned you go for walks in the evening.
Yeah, I mean, my son is here right now. My daughter's here, but my son and I are early risers. So my morning starts off with making some really strong coffee to get ready for the sprint of my day. And I make my son a cup of tea. And then we just kind of start out that way. I read the news, and if it starts getting too ugly and repetitive, I hit delete. And I get daily poems from the Paris Review, and I also get a daily poem from poets.org. So I read at least 2 poems every day, and I start my day reading, and then I dive right into all the storytelling that I have to do for Botanical Colors, for TS Designs, and the Southeastern New England Fibreshed too.
Tell us a bit about the Fibreshed.
So we started our Southeastern New England Fibreshed, which is part of the main Fibreshed in Northern California. And there were 3 of us that started it, and it was to work with from farmer to finished product in the area that is New Bedford, Fall River, Lowell, and Lawrence, Massachusetts, of course, Cape Cod, the islands. And it's just kind of this circle that comprises a lot. It's basically the birth of the Industrial Revolution is my Fibreshed. So we've done lots of different things. We've gotten grants from Patagonia. We've gotten grants, of course, from Fibreshed. And we've worked on projects like that's featured in the Fibreshed book right now that came out, I guess, was it last year now? Yeah, at the end of last year, I think.
Yeah, I've got it here, this one.
Yeah, so it features one of the projects that we did with 6 alpaca farmers. So we were working with them to start doing regenerative farming. And we learned so much from the experience, not just how to talk about making good soil and taking out all the terms that we want to say, like carbon farming, carbon sequestration, regenerative. If we just said, do you want good dirt? They're like, yes, okay, great. We want you to have good dirt too. So we had to work at this very elemental level, talking about things. And then once the farmers incorporated it into their own language, then they actually went out and talked to lots of different farmers about it. And it was beautiful. And it actually was interesting too, because a handful of the farmers are from a different political background than I am. And so being able to realize that we'd gotten so far without ever talking about politics, that we could continue to not talk about politics and still make good soil, was really interesting and eye-opening to me. Again, to find these places where we can have honest conversations and supportive conversations without involving anything about politics or politics. That was interesting. So yeah, we've worked on lots of different projects. Right now, I am working on a number of things through the Fibreshed. One is we have a producer directory on our website. So I just keep loading on farmers who have fiber producing animals, or have cut and sew, or have weaving or knitting mills, or mini mills for processing wool. And just adding them to the directory. And now I'm starting to see that there are actual little supply chains starting out, because we have large brands, because that's my background, and my network knows me like in that way. So they'll say, hey, Amy, could we do a run of 500 sweaters with you? Absolutely not. Not yet. Not yet. We don't have a system in place yet for it, but I'm trying to figure it out. So during this time, I have a Fulbright scholar who had to come back from Sri Lanka from her research and work. She's helping me right now with a lot of production listings that are in Rhode Island, where she is, because Rhode Island is part of our Fibreshed too. And then I have another friend who's helping me out with a lot of farmers in this area and creating the listings, and then I load them onto the site. I'm also working right now with the RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, their nature lab, and we're putting together a 12-part series called The Common Thread that is looking at like what makes an extinct bug, a farmer growing fiber, and an industrial designer. You know, what links us all together? What's the common thread? If we talk about waste, if we talk about soil and farming, if we talk about regenerative, what are these common threads? So they're all excited. They've been actually watching Feedback Friday, and they love them. So they're like, let's do it like kind of like that format. So we're working on that right now, and I hope that we can start doing that hopefully like in the next month and a half.
Oh, it sounds like you've got a lot on the go, Amy. That's great.
I love it.
So in terms of sort of managing in this time of change, what's your best piece of advice to us?
Best piece of advice. I would be a hypocrite if I gave you that advice, because I wish I could slow down more. When this first started, I was doing yoga with my local yoga studio, which I hadn't been able to do yoga for a couple of years because I never had time. And now all I had to do was throw yoga pants on and run downstairs and, get my yoga mat out. And that worked for the first couple of weeks. And now I realize it's been a couple of weeks since I've been doing yoga. But I do believe, I can read poems in the morning. I can drink my cup of coffee. I can step outside on the back porch here and listen to the morning bird song and smell the fresh air. I can do that, but I really think it's important to keep moving our bodies, to be able to be quiet, to stretch, to listen, to realize that we're not the only person going through something. I feel like I check in more with people outside my house than inside my house. So I feel like I need to be checking in more and making sure everybody's mental health here is okay. Yeah. So it's kind of, I want to say slow down, but I'm having a hard time myself.
Well, that's kind of a good problem to have, isn't it, really, when in this state of change? And how do you think life and a society might be different on the other side when, eventually we get through the pandemic? What impact will it have socially, culturally, economically?
I am hoping that the idea of regional supply becomes a lot more important to people. I think we're seeing that in terms of masks and robes and all the things that all these amazing cut and sew and manufacturing facilities here in the United States and in every state are rallying to make things for to make whatever PPE masks and robes for hospital workers. I think that's been amazing just to see that in terms of supply and how you can pivot. I hate saying pivot as much as I have, but I'm going to. How you can pivot your business to accommodate a regional supply chain. I talk to a lot of farmers. Farmers are just killing it right now. They are selling, like this farm that I'm going to as soon as we get off this, to get some vegetables and other things I get from them. They have sold out on their CSAs for the entire season. They're not accepting anymore. That was a challenge. I used to actually, with this particular farm, do social media for them in exchange for food for CSA. And now they're just, and I used to push it all the time, and they would never fully sell out of CSA. It's fully sold out, and the things that they're doing is just incredible. But I hope we look at our communities differently, our communities as support systems, our immediate communities, and what we can get from them, whether it's emotional support, support for food, support for fiber. How much do we actually need? But I know Lee Edelcourt was talking, I heard some interview that she was talking about, or maybe it was an article, where she was talking about how there's going to be this massive, I'm almost positive it was Lee, now I'm nervous, that there was going to be this massive push, that we go crazy after all this. When you are told you can't, that's all you want to do is do the things. So you want to go crazy shopping, and you want to do, you want to live life in excess as a form of rebellion from it all. And I hope that doesn't happen. I remember I did this thing called the Taylor Project a couple of years, God, it was like 4 or 5 years now back. And I decided not to buy clothing, jewelry, or shoes for 1 year. And I would work with a local tailor and revamp my whole closet. So that's what we did. I got rid of things like, why am I not wearing this? Well, it's because I wish it were better, it fit me better, or the neck was different. So I was able to revamp my clothes. But I remember on the first day back, the only place I wanted to go to was Goodwill. And a couple times I thought, if I just bought that, nobody's going to know what's in my closet. So I feel like there's going to be this sort of push to revisit all the excess. But hopefully there's a reining in too. I don't know. I don't know what it will be like. I think the way that we gather for conferences and our symposiums and I don't know. I mean, will we be gathering in those spaces again? I want to gather in spaces with everyone again and talk and see facial expressions and body language and put my hands in a dye vat with people and say, oh my God, look at this. I want those moments to come back. And I hope we can find those special places and bring them back. But I don't know. I know I intend to do things differently. I make so much food and bake so much right now. It's like revolting, but I want to continue making as much food as I have and not using, oh, I've been too busy, let's go out to eat as an excuse. I mean, it's better management of my time. Maybe we'll manage our time better. I think it just depends on the person.
Yeah, well, I guess that there will be change. There will be change, and it's just probably remains to be seen what it is. But I look forward one day to hopefully coming and being in that kitchen with you, Amy,
I would love to make you coffee or tea in this kitchen.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. But it's been great to be able to chat meanwhile. So good luck with your dyeing and your Feedback Friday, and I look forward to listening to it online. We're lucky to have these digital tools, aren't we?
We are so lucky to have them. Yeah. And even, to communicate, just seeing you for the first time has been wonderful. And being able to have a conversation that I want to have and not about what dinner is tonight is really, it feeds my soul too. And that's, we all need these interactions as much as possible, I think, just to keep nurturing our creative selves.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Amy. It's been great to chat.
Nice talking with you too.
Yeah.